Good evening, and welcome once again to another edition of Matthew Hopkins News. I am your host, the Witchfinder General. This episode is entitled, Why I Am Voting for Shapps. I live in Welwyn Garden City, and I am a Conservative Party member and a former Borough Councillor for the Labour Party. I'm legally qualified, and I've passed the LPC, the main solicitor's exams. I also have a master's degree in law, specifically legal practice. I have not sought to practice as a solicitor, but I do help people in court for charity as a Mackenzie friend. Like many people, I have been, at times, disappointed with the local council and the government. Not as much, of course, as I have been disappointed by the previous Labour government, nor the Labour Council. But nonetheless, I understand why some people are doubtful, or sometimes hostile to the Conservative Party this time around. So, why am I voting for Grant Shapps? I keep hearing it on the doorstep. They're all the same! Round here, they are dead wrong. When much of Parliament was on the take during the expenses scandal, even left-wing newspaper The Independent acknowledged Grant Shapps was one of the exceptions. They called him an expenses saint. So, quite literally, round here, you have the one who even his opponents concede is not just the same as all the others, who did not have his fingers in the till, or his moat cleaned at public expense. Round here, it should be easy to make that choice. Grant has a history of jobs in the real world. He made his money running a printing company, and he has lived in Welwyn Hatfield for over a decade, using the same services as the rest of us. He has a normal family with 3 children who come out campaigning for him on the doorstep. More importantly, Shapps has been an active and accessible local MP. He has done his casework, and many people on the doorstep are willing to acknowledge that, even his opponents. So, quite literally, we are not just the same. It is even easier when you look at the opposition. Let's take Labour, then Reform. Andrew Lewin is the Labour parliamentary candidate for Welwyn Hatfield, and he has also been the Director of Communications for Clarion, a housing association. Clarion, of course, as you may have read in the Welwyn Hatfield Times, or perhaps the Guardian, has been hit by a scandal due to poor conditions residents have been living in. Clarion has been failing, and it has been Lewin's job to portray itself as positively as possible. So, whilst people have been told that they have to live with rats in their home, or mould on their walls, Lewin has been there to put a spin on it. But a lot of people already know that. I've done a deeper dive into Lewin's history. Lewin graduated from the University of York in 2008 with a 2-1 in politics. He had been a young Liberal Democrat, joining them in 2003. He worked as a public relations stroke public affairs consultant for Fishbourne Hedges from 2009 to 2013, rising to the rank of Associate Director. During that time, he ran for Parliament in 2010 as a Liberal Democrat, then joined the Labour Party later that year, which he announced on Labour List and in various national media. He then moved on to Blue Rubicon, a similar role during which he also volunteered in the Labour Party National Communications team, before moving on to Clarion. In short, Lewin has spent his whole life in political communications roles. If we accept his LinkedIn profile, he has never had, since graduation, a job in the real world that was not spin doctoring. he was also against Brexit and pro-Remain. Those things do not appeal to me. Of course, for real comedy, we have the local Reform candidate Jack Aaron. I feel his picture is more than enough to encompass his whole candidature. I mean, let's just criticise and review the picture itself for an instant. It looks like he's taken a pretty good train spotting outfit, slapped on a Reform rosette, and run for Parliament. You may have seen the newspaper stories about Mr. Aaron. Again, he warrants an in-depth look. Jack Aaron is best known for calling Hitler brilliant on Twitter. The post is here in full. Now, when challenged, Jack said it was all out of context, claimed to be Jewish, and said that what he meant was that, and I quote, Hitler was as brilliant as he was utter evil. It is unfortunate that the utter evil bit, as you can see, did not make its way into the original post. That much, however, everyone has already read. I've gone deeper. Jack Aaron is a psychologist and the president of the World Socionic Society, which basically promotes a fringe theory of personality classification. Aaron makes money from these theories. For example, the Society webpage advertises for a £540 course on socionics. That's a discount. Apparently it's normally £600. Aaron has frequently promoted a socionics blog, including linking to a socionics analysis of Hitler. For the full context, here is this blog post promoted by Jack and posted by a socionicist called Peter B. So, to cut through their weird cult-like jargon, the post classifies Hitler as EIE, which means ethical, intuitive, extrovert in socionics land. They've called Hitler ethical. They've said Hitler was the individual most responsible for the Second World War and the Holocaust, but not that those things, the Holocaust and the war, were bad or evil. The worst thing the profile says about Hitler was that he lied shamelessly. In fairness, I put these allegations to Mr. Aaron and he replied. He repeated his comments that he had called Hitler evil in the newspapers, but explaining why his posts from those years ago did not call Hitler evil, he said, and I quote, "That blog post exists purely for personality analysis. The goodness or evil of a person is irrelevant to our analyses because there is no good or evil type." He also says the course now only costs £300. Mr. Aaron also tried to call me 3 times and sent me texts begging me to treat him fairly, as well as expressing concern that he would lose his day job. My conclusion after interacting with him by email and text is that Aaron is a nice guy, but hopelessly inadequate for his role. I don't believe he is a Nazi or Hitler sympathiser because he seems to be Jewish. Having said that, if he were not Jewish, then on the basis of the Hitler profile he promoted, I would think very differently. It is an extremely strange post. As far as I can see, Jack Aaron has never held or even run for public office before. He strikes me as someone who obtained his candidature because Reform is a new party and they needed a lot of candidates for Parliament in a hurry. I've linked to the socionics profile of Hitler that Jack Aaron promoted in the video description on YouTube, so make up your own mind and read it for yourself. So locally, it's pretty easy for me to vote Shapps. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, as well as follow me on Twitter, where I am at MHNWitchfinder. And have a great evening, wherever you are.